Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. Your host here, Matt Zahabi, you're buzzing as always. Guys, I know I've been complaining about the weather. I know this is so boomer of me, even though I'm not a boomer, I'm a millennial. But for my friends and the family and all the listeners in northeast of North America, it's going to be a chilly one. Get your popcorn ready. Maybe watch a couple good movies, TV shows, or just haul ass in front of the computer. Maybe mess around with Claude Code. Do what you got to do. Trade some shit coins. Do whatever. But it's going to be an absolute gong show coming up. So everyone stay safe, stay warm, and listen to a couple of epis of the Crypto News Pod. Super pumped for today's epi. Today we have Bhau Kotecha on the show today, co-founder and head of Paxos Labs, a startup spun out from Paxos in 2025 to empower institutions and developers with enterprise-grade infra for on-chain financial products. At Paxos Labs, he leads the mission to remove complexity of decentralized finance so partners can seamlessly embed trusted products such as custom stablecoins, DeFi yield strategies, and tokenized assets into their platforms. This is going to be an absolute banger. He did 6 years previously at The Block, also formerly known as Square. He dedicated and directed go-to-market efforts for Cash App and Square. He's done a whole bunch of everything, and this is going to be an absolute banger. Bhau, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on. How you doing this lovely afternoon?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Matt. Pumped to be here.
Likewise. I mean, jumping right into it, let's just go boom, boom, boom. Paxos Labs, every single podcast epi, Crypto News Pod, the team at Crypto News, incredible team, always comes in. Sometimes they ask me questions. I'll always just say, hey, I'm recording with so-and-so tomorrow. Any alpha you guys got? The one thing was, what's the difference between Paxos Labs and Paxos? Was this a classic just sort of labs coming out? Obviously in the bio, talked about custom stablecoins, which really excites me. DeFi yield strategies, tokenized assets, you name it. But what is the difference between Paxos and Paxos Labs?
Yeah, totally. And I think, this is definitely a little bit of a unique situation that warrants an explanation. But so before, I spun out Paxos Labs and leading that initiative, I spent about 3.5 years at Paxos, right? And as you mentioned prior at Block, Square, Cash App. And probably helpful to explain a second, like the core business of Paxos, right? Paxos is very focused on being kind of that first step for enterprises when they start their blockchain journey. And where do enterprises typically start, or what are we seeing, right? Today, they're either starting with stablecoin and stablecoin payments or crypto trading, right? So Paxos's two core businesses are stablecoin infrastructure. So Paxos has issued USDG in the consortium model with partners like Kraken, Robinhood, OKX, several others, is obviously the issuer of PayPal stablecoin PYUSD and has issued several stablecoins before that. And then on the crypto brokerage as a service side, if you go on something like PayPal or Interactive Brokers or Nubank and you actually trade crypto, it's powered by Paxos infrastructure. So that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of enterprises start their crypto journey, their blockchain journey. In my 3.5 years at Paxos, something that the CEO and founder of Paxos and I started to discuss was what comes next after this first step that these enterprises take on the journey. What comes next? And as I'm sure a lot of your listeners are aware, it's like you don't just get a stable coin and stop there, right? You don't just get Bitcoin or Ether and stop there. You want to do things with it on chain. You want to essentially leverage the financial services that are available in on-chain markets using those assets. And so very much the thesis became, hey, it's great that stable coins are getting adoption. It's great that crypto trading is getting adoption, but there's something that's going to come next. And we don't think anyone is really prepared or building for that. And that kind of was the genesis of Paxos Labs. We believe that every platform in the world is going to have stable coins and crypto assets on it, but they're going to want to enable financial services on top of that. And that's what Paxos Labs is trying to do. Enable lend, borrow, swaps, perps, maybe everything that you might want to do on chain with stablecoins and crypto assets. We want to enable that next leg of innovation for enterprises.
I love that. To start, I'd love to take a deep dive, get our shit kicking boots on, go deep in the weeds here, deep in the mud on stablecoins 101. Most people, when they think of stablecoins, they think of Tether, they think of Circle. No brainers. It's really sort of the only ones that I'd say almost everyone sort of uses and has touch points with. And then like you talked about USDG, behind the scenes stablecoins and the stablecoin infra that, you and the team at Paxos and Paxos Labs have built. But I want to go a little off topic and talk on topic. Talk about stablecoins for huge enterprises, something like an Apple stablecoin. There's been rumors of a Walmart stablecoin, an Amazon stablecoin. Obviously, you have Stripe getting in the stablecoin game, all these types of companies. But for actual consumer-facing companies, Bhau, it makes so much sense. If you're Walmart and you have Walmarts in a gazillion countries around the world, you have FX risk in a gazillion different countries. It's an absolute shit show. You could not just keep the yield on that stablecoin, but you could give it back to your consumers as well, which is probably a lot better than just some shitty Walmart credit card point system. Walk us through some of the conversations you've had there and what you think the future of sort of consumer business facing stablecoins will look like.
Yeah, totally. And so, some of the names you gave there, Apple, Walmart, some of the largest consumer brands in the world. And you're right, it makes a lot of sense for them. We've had a lot of conversations over the years with people that want to do stablecoins. Obviously, folks like Binance were very early with BUSD, but, more recently PayPal and several others that are in discussions. A lot of this kind of insight has actually led to what was the insight into building USDG, right? And so when you ask a lot of enterprises, why do you want your own stablecoin, right? Oftentimes the answer is, I want the economics, right? And some people care about brand, but a lot of times it's, I want the economics. And so the way USDG was designed was specifically with this consortium model in mind, where, hey, if you're Kraken or you're OKX and you're driving value and you're driving custody of this asset, you're getting rewarded accordingly, right?
Yeah.
It might be 90% or 95% of what you would get if you really built it from the ground up. But the benefit you're now getting is that you're theoretically getting a higher utility asset, right? Because all these ecosystems are now connected together. The USDG is fungible. It can move across the ecosystems. Now you own a piece of a higher value network, right?
Yeah.
You can go start your own. Stablecoins are really networks, right? And so you really have to be kind of a global behemoth that can kind of like an Apple that can unilaterally kind of spin up a network from scratch. And it's very hard for most platforms to do that. And so if you're really after the economics, a model like USDG makes a lot of sense. Now, if you care about the economics and brand, right? I think, maybe you have a massive brand like Apple or something like that, and you want Apple dollar. I think there's a world where those assets will exist, but where I think it's going to be very important is how those assets are built, right? If you build these as bespoke, kind of isolated assets, interoperability becomes very difficult. And so that's where I think building with an infrastructure provider like Paxos, hey, it's not only are you getting your branded asset with economics, but you're actually getting interoperability with USDG, with PYUSD, with this kind of network of assets that Paxos is issuing. And so on day one, you have a network, you have interoperability versus starting from zero, which is a really daunting task. And it was hard 5 years ago. It's only getting harder because there's more competition, right? So if you launch a stablecoin today, it's harder to scale it today than it was if you launched a new stablecoin 5 years ago. It's the network effects are compounding. And so I would encourage any enterprise that's thinking about building their own stablecoin, ensure that you're building it in a way that you can leverage some existing network effects, existing platform effects, and you're not kind of starting on an island, completely at zero.
Yeah, well said. I definitely want to go back to interoperability and the Omnichain architecture that you guys have built for USDG. But on the economics, and I get asked this all the time from my normie friends, from my TradFi friends, my investment banker friends, the investment bankers in particular. I've been getting a shit ton of calls from my buddies on Bay Street, which is Toronto, Canada's version of Wall Street, my Wall Street buddies as well. Hey, I'm working with company X who I can't tell you about. They're interested in stablecoins. I've done research mostly via ChatGPT. I have some questions. They ask me questions. They all still are baffled by how simple it is, and the fact that, okay, if I have $1 billion, I buy $1 billion worth of T-bills. I now have $1 billion worth of stable coins, and I get whatever the yield is on my T-bill, whether it's 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever the case may be. And that's quite simply the business model, where you now don't have to worry about that forecasting, right? It's already there. You don't have to worry about the Jew arbitrage. It's done. Any points I'm missing here are that when you're in these meetings with these big dogs, is there any other just such low-hanging fruit that people aren't really cognizant of on the economics of stablecoins?
I think there's definitely that element of it. But I think the thing that is the aha moment for a lot of the platforms that get involved with stablecoins, right? So, I used to work at Cash App, right? So Cash App, we would track the assets that we had on our platform, right? So it's okay, we've got $1 billion of customer assets on our platform. It's like, okay, you turn that all into stablecoin, boom, like an immediate monetization moment. Yeah. But the aha moment isn't that. That's very clear to most people. It's, well, what actually happens when someone transfers $1 out of Cash App or a different app today? Well, the platform's ability to monetize that dollar is gone. It is gone onto traditional fiat rails. It's gone into the system. Your ability to monetize that dollar is done. Now, if you have a stablecoin that originates from your platform, like, for PayPal, for example, not only are they monetizing on platform, but if someone takes that PayPal stablecoin and goes into DeFi or go to something else, pays a merchant, as long as it stays in circulation, they're actually monetizing that. And so I think that is kind of, incredibly large opportunity for some of these brands is it's off-platform dollar economics. And that's never been possible before. And I think that's what like breaks people's brains where they're like, wait a second. So you're telling me my addressable market for monetizable dollars was this, and now it's really anything that originates from my ecosystem and stays in circulation, right? And it's really a different model.
I'm stealing that from you. I've actually never heard that before. Off-platform dollar economics. That is a Bhau original. I don't know if you snagged from someone, but when I steal it and use it, I will give you credit. But that is
please
that is absolute gold. I love that. Okay. It literally, you're taking the best currency, the reserve currency of the world, and you're sort of making it your own. Like you're piggybacking off of all the hard work, the trillions of dollars in war and oil and everything. And now we just have sort of Bhaumik dollars. It's pretty electric. And that's the power of crypto for you. You got to love it. Okay.
Definitely.
Interoperability, the Omnichain architecture that you guys have built. You sort of just talked about interoperability, how important it is. This is where the shit show happens. If Matt and Bo want to launch a Bhaumik dollar and we do it on our own bespoke, custom, siloed infra, okay, yeah, we get to control the whole thing. But then just like what you said, when it comes to using it, when it comes to DeFi, it's an absolute shit show. It's a nightmare. We'll go with the low-hanging fruit. Any other low-hanging fruit that the average sort of person or banker or people you're talking to just don't really get when it comes to interoperability?
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll tell the interoperability story from a few angles, right? I'll start it with liquidity, right? The first thing you do when you launch a stablecoin, you say, okay, how do I build liquidity for this thing, right? How do I get Matt Bo dollar to have liquidity? Where do people get it, right? The traditional way of doing this, right, in crypto is to create liquidity pools. You go to Curve, you go to Uniswap, you do whatever, and you essentially fund a two-sided pool. You take an asset that people already have, let's say USDC or USDT, and maybe you seed $5 million of that, and then you seed $5 million of Matt Bo dollar. What that allows people to do is show up with USDC and get Matt Bo dollar in a one-to-one swap. Great, amazing. But where is that $10 million coming from? It's coming from the company's balance sheet, right? And so now you can see how this becomes incredibly not scalable to, it's like, cool, I just seeded Uniswap. Well, oh shoot, I need to go to Curve, or I need to go over here, or my customer's over here. And you all of a sudden have created a balance sheet nightmare of scaling your stablecoin, right?
Yeah.
And so now, if you think about a different model, something like USDG 0, which we built, is essentially kind of a cross-chain, omni-chain model of an existing stablecoin. So we take USDG 0 to an ecosystem like Hyperliquid or, Arbitrum or any of these other chains. Now, if people want to get that asset on that chain, well, how do they do it? We could do the liquidity pool model, but we can also say, hey, if you actually already have USDG on Ethereum, we'll seamlessly give it to you one-to-one. We'll lock it in a layer 0 OFT vault, which is who we partner with to build it. And you instantly get USDG 0 on the other side.
On Hype,
right? And so it is kind of this one-sided liquidity mechanism that is extremely efficient for scaling any stablecoin that I don't think a lot of people understand, right? It's because especially when we talk to people, it's like, oh, okay, like, you stand up a new smart contract in a bank account and boom, I have a smart contract that says, my name USD on it. That is day one of a very long journey of scaling a stablecoin that I think people don't quite understand yet. And some of this kind of interoperability, being able to piggyback off existing networks, I think is going to be really important. So, taking the Paxos example, if another company were to build their stablecoin using Paxos infrastructure, it's like, well, actually, there's already $5 billion of Paxos issued stablecoins out there, right? Approximately between USDG and PYUSD. Wow. It's like, whoa, hey, we can actually leverage that liquidity and enable swaps between these things. And not only does the new asset get a head start and gets off to a faster liquidity buildup, but the existing assets build their network effects because there's now more and more things that are interoperable with them.
Yeah.
And it's a real compounding kind of network of networks effect that I think is so powerful that will probably take 5, 10, 15 years to play out. But I think it will probably really blow people's minds when they really get their kind of like brains around it.
Well said. We got to take a quick break. Before we do, I'll give a sort of no bueno analogy, but just for a lot of people who use Amazon, which is probably 99.9% of the listeners. If Bo and Matt launch, I don't know, a sparkling water company and we have our own e-commerce website, we have two choices. We can do it ourselves. We can do the F&B. We can do the distribution, host the website. It's a bit of a gong show. Yeah, we're going to have higher margins. And yes, we're going to have control over our customers' data. But Or we could put on Amazon and have a gazillion times the reach and the network effects. Sort of not a great example, but just goes to show, guys, if there's a established solution that is proven to do the right things, maybe give up a couple basis points to go and just do it quicker, more efficient, and have a much larger network. Anyways, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. Doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50. That's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Okay, back to Paxos Labs. One of my favorite things that you guys do, and again, you touched on this at the very beginning, Bo, when you gave that great little spiel on the difference between Paxos and Paxos Labs, and sort of the rise of embedded DeFi, where it's not just about the stablecoin itself, it's about the network effects, it's about integrating the yield, it is about integrating payments directly into these existing apps, sort of doing a one-trick pony, a one-size-fits-all, not one-size-fits-all, but just making your dollar way more powerful. No, you guys probably can't give us a whole lot of use cases, but if possible, give us some use cases. You can bring up PYUSD, you can bring up USDG, any one of them, but just talk about sort of the convergence of stablecoins, payments, yield, all in one together, making that killer product.
Yeah, totally. So I think a lot of what we're focused on right now, and this is a balance that we try to strike at Paxos Labs, right? Where there's so much interesting stuff happening in DeFi and crypto from an innovation standpoint that it's tempting to really go out on the like innovation curve and be like, hey, like, let's go look at this thing. But you really have to kind of ground yourself, especially if you're trying to work with enterprises and the largest platforms in the world. For folks like us that have been in crypto for a while, the most maybe boring things might be the kind of like most cutting edge or like out on the risk curve thing for a large enterprise, right? So something like depositing a stable coin into Aave or Morpho, right? To us, it's like, oh, easy. Yeah, like all day, every day. That is like a novel new implementation for a lot of enterprises. And it takes kind of months, quarters of education and understanding and creating kind of the enterprise grade scaffolding that would be required to do a DeFi integration, right? The risk management framework, the security framework, the reviews that go into it. And so a lot of what we're focused on, while it might not be the most exciting to a very DeFi native ecosystem, but it's, hey, like, how do we get the largest platforms with the largest reach to start to integrate kind of the first steps of a DeFi product, right? That might just be stablecoin yield, low risk, Bitcoin collateral, backed loans, right? Like kind of like inching out and getting them comfortable is kind of where we're starting.
Yeah, you got to get them in the door first. Yeah,
you got to get them in the door, and look, like I think while the crypto industry has really innovated on a bunch of interesting use cases, like I think about stuff like Pendle and like all these like different markets that have like really cool, like kind of financial innovation. But we can't skate past that even the simple implementations need the enterprise grade scaffolding, right? Need kind of the structure around it so that a platform that has 10 million users can actually integrate it and have confidence in it. And so a lot of what we're focused on is, yes, we want to embed kind of these DeFi use cases, but we need to do it in a way that is trustworthy for enterprises that have huge consumer bases to actually plug into.
I like that. Talk about enterprise grade security. I'm going a little off topic here. Privacy focused, privacy preserving stablecoins. I do recall reading some stuff here that Paxos is dabbling in this. I do think this is going to be huge. Biggest problem with stablecoins right now, if I pay Bo in good old whatever, Cash App, or what do you guys use? Zelle. What's the big one I'm missing?
Venmo. Yeah.
Venmo. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a different Canada. If I Venmo you, you don't really like, the people can't tell that I Venmoed you $1,000, but on chain, if you know Bo's address, you know Matt's address, you can see everything. Yep. What does the future of privacy-focused stablecoins look like? Because that's something we really friggin' need right now.
Yeah, so we actually have a partnership that was announced last month and is launching soon with the blockchain Alio. And we're partnering with them to launch USAD, which is a privacy-preserving stablecoin, right? And so it's leveraging Paxos Labs infrastructure, but also leveraging some of the benefits of Alio's privacy-enabled blockchain. And together, essentially, it's enabling these things, right? And so one of the use cases that we have in mind and that we're talking to several providers about is there's actually a lot of payroll providers that want to pay global contractors and stablecoins, but same thing. You don't necessarily want the entire world knowing what Matt gets paid versus what Bo gets paid, right? It's kind of like a slippery slope in that way. And so, we have that partnership that's upcoming with Alia, which we're really excited about. I think is going to unlock a bunch of interesting use cases. I'll be honest in that I'm not sure how it will play out. I think the guys over at Alia are great, and I think that is a product that will probably have great success. But I also envision existing stablecoins or existing chains retrofitting some level of privacy features. And so it will be interesting to see play out, like what really gets the adoption, what grows. But, I think what's coming out with USAD between Paxos Labs and Alio will be a really interesting kind of like first step into that world.
USAD, any reason for the name there? Like, is there anything hidden behind it? Because I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, what the hell does that mean?
It was a largely decision by the Alio team. I won't steal their thunder. They've got an announcement coming up, and so I'm sure they'll share some more details around how they're thinking about naming there.
Okay, I like that. I love tickers. I think tickers are low-key extremely important for that ecosystem success, and I'm trying to figure it out in my head. I'm like, what the hell could that mean? Anyways, we will see. I will keep my eyes posted for that. Bo, it's been an absolute treat. A couple minutes before we wrap up, we'll conclude with Paxos Labs news. Before then, any hot takes? I mean, we're recording sort of end of Jan. This episode's going to air very beginning of Feb. Anything that's piquing your interest recently? We have precious metals going parabolic. We have crypto sort of being in the shitter. We have privacy, which continues to be on the rise. We have DeFi, again, continue to be on the rise. Tokenized stocks going parabolic right now. Anything in particular that's tickling your fancy present day?
Ooh, I think one of the most beloved products in crypto, at least from what I see, that we didn't even talk about is PaxG, is Paxos's tokenized gold product. It's really interesting when I worked at Paxos, and sometimes we'd get candidates or inbound people talking to us. They wouldn't actually always necessarily mention stablecoins first. They would mention PaxG and like the love for tokenized gold. And so obviously gold is going absolutely crazy right now, which is exciting to see. Something that I've been thinking a lot about is, is there a world where tokenized gold and tokenized metals actually start to play a more active role in DeFi, right? If you go look on Morpho or Aave or whatever, a lot of the collateral assets end up being things like Bitcoin and ETH, right?
Yeah.
I'm like genuinely curious as to why hasn't tokenized gold turned up as like a really valuable collateral asset, right? Gold is still larger from a market cap standpoint than Bitcoin. And so I'm really curious to see kind of, do some of these tokenized commodities play a bigger and bigger role in DeFi? And it's something that we're thinking about and hope to play a role in, because it makes a lot of sense to me, right? You have this massive asset class. You have an asset that's generally difficult to move and subdivide, right? The way PaxG gold,
largest tradable asset in the world.
Exactly.
And also, just like you said, think about how many guys own a shit ton of mega boomers owning maybe not billions, but millions and millions of dollars of gold. What kind of yield are they getting on that?
Right, exactly. Like nothing essentially right now, right? And so, and not to mention, getting access to true ownership of gold is actually pretty hard. A lot of people get gold access via, an ETF or something like that. And it's like, well, you own a share of this vehicle that holds gold. Really, like tokenized gold, if you go buy PaxG right now, there is a bar of gold that is marked in a vault in London in your name, right? And you actually have the legal rights under UK law, the legal rights to that bar of gold, which is, I think unique. You're truly owning it versus buying a share of something that owns gold, right?
Super cool. I love that. That was the regrets, candidly. And I always tell the listeners when I do invest in something and don't, I missed the boat on PaxG. I watched the chart go parabolic and I was like, you are just a special kind of dumb, but you can't win them all. Bo, this was electric. Before we let you go, any Paxos Labs news, and where can we find you personally and Paxos Labs online and on socials?
Yeah, I think we're going to have some really big announcements, including the Alio announcement on USAD, but I think we've got some really interesting announcements coming out around embedded finance and embedded DeFi that we're excited to share in the coming weeks. And so I think that's going to be, as you would put it, electric in the market. And you can find us at Paxos Labs on Twitter and at Bhau, BHAU, with 3 underscores after that on Twitter. Come find us. Let us know what you're seeing and hearing. And we're excited to launch some cool products into the market in the next few months.
Love it. Folks, what an episode with Bhau Kotecha, co-founder of Paxos Labs, absolute masterclass. on everything stablecoin related, info for custom branded stablecoins, tokenized yield strategy, structured digital assets, USDG, USDG zero, one of my favorite new terms that I'm stealing from him, off-platform dollar economics, and we even got into Paxos' tokenized gold product as well. Huge shout out to Bo and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Jaggy, keep on crushing it. And back to the listeners, love you guys. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. See you on the next one. Ciao.